Hello guys, we're going to get started here in a second. Hello.
Hi.
Just getting some invites done here.
Okay.
Hadn't seen Eileen yet. I don't know where she's at. She might be having a hard time still. She was having trouble with the phone thing. Hello everybody, hope everybody's having a good night.
Ellen, did you invite her?
I'm looking for her, I hadn't seen her yet.
Yeah. Hi, Mark. Hi, Faye. Hi, Tracy.
Hey Tracy, how's it going? Hey Mark. Hey Mama Dude.
Ellen just joined, so she's in the...
Okay, good.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Happy. Hey Eileen.
Just gonna Hi, I'm just gonna go grab the link, okay, for the YouTube channel. Okay. Hello everyone.
Hey. I'm so techno challenged, y'all have to bear with me a minute. Why is that coming up? There we go. Gonna be a kind of quiet group tonight, probably, because there's not as many of us tonight, but we're still gonna go ahead with this and see if we can't have a good time and learn some stuff at the same time. Been kind of a confusing day. Had some flip-flopping problems in the group and trying to iron those out. I don't know how long it'll take, but it's just one of them things that happens. So y'all be praying about it that things turn out the best that they need to come out. However Father wants them to come out. I love you guys though and appreciate everybody being here. We're going to do the best we can just to carry on and get Father's message out That's all I know to do. It's a little better. And that color looks off a little bit. Because orange on my screen, it looks red on there. Does it look red to y'all?
It looks orange.
Okay, maybe it's just my screen looking like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Last time we started talking about Simon Peter, and we're going to continue talking about him. Jesus gave us a lot of clues about who he is, and I think a lot of people missed him. He was very, I don't know how to say it, gruff in a way, and he was demanding. He's the one person that rebuked Jesus, and also he was the one person that Jesus called Satan, which is kind of bizarre when you think about it. Okay, when we look at John 6:70, Jesus answered them, "Did I not choose you, the 12, yet one of you is a devil?" That's a pretty weird statement to say, you know? Then when they get up in the Last Supper scene in the upper room, and in John 13:2 it says, "And supper having occurred, the devil having put already in the heart of Judas, Simon Iscariot, that he should betray him." So prior to this, it says that the devil had already put it in the mind or in the heart of Judas that he would betray him. But what we see in English is Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. Well, in the actual Greek manuscript, what you will see is Judas, Simon Iscariot. There's no son of in there. So whoever this was that betrayed him was also Simon. We're going to explain that here in a minute. Okay. I may have to blow that up a hair. So I can read it. Now. Okay, Satan. I looked it up in this online etymology dictionary. Satan is literally a proper name of a supreme evil spirit and great adversary of humanity in Christianity. The Old English Satan is from the late Latin Satan in the Vulgate of the Old Testament only, from the Greek Satanus. From the Hebrew, Satan is adversary, one who plots against another. From Satan, to show enmity, to oppose or plot against, is the root Satan, which means one who opposes, obstructs, or acts as an adversary. In the Greek Septuagint, it's usually in Greek is diabolos, or slanderer, literally one who throws across the path of another, through the plotter, as it's once said. So this goes back to the 6th century BC. So Satan it can be a proper name, because this was something we had all talked about and debated and tried to figure out. Ew. Now I got to shrink back down. Uh-oh. Okay. We'll read the verse first. Okay, in Matthew 16:21, "From that time forth began Jesus to show us, his disciples, how that he must go into Jerusalem and suffer many things of the elders and the chief priests and scribes, to be unalived and to be raised again on the third day. Then Peter took him and began to rebuke him, saying, Be it far from thee, Lord, this shall not be unto thee. In other words, this can't happen. I'm rebuking this. This is not going to happen. But in verse 23, but he turned and said to Peter, Get thee behind me, Satan, for thou art an offense and unto me, for thou savorest not the things that be of God, but the things of men. And some will say of earth or whatever. But when you look at the word for rebuke, that's a pretty strong word. It means an act of blaming, criticizing, condemning as wrong, reprehension, an official reprimand, in judicial and ecclesiastical sentence of reprimand, condemnatory judgment, an obsolete judgment, either favorable or unfavorable opinion. And when I looked up Satan in the regular, like Old Greek, it said it's the proper name of a supreme evil spirit, a great adversary of humanity. I just went over those pretty good. And the Hebrew Satan, they say, is an adversary, one who plots against another, from Satan to show enmity, oppose, plot against, one who opposes and obstructs or acts as an adversary. So we've got two strong statements going here. We've got Peter rebuking Jesus and Jesus calling him a Satan. Okay. All right. I hate to keep having to change the size, but to see it and for y'all to see it too. When we look at John 18:12, who exactly is Peter? We don't really know. Some say he's a fisherman. He's been said to be a high priest according to the Talmud and Jewish writings. He had to be a high priest, and I'm going to show you in this verse why he had to. It said, John 18:12, and then the cohort, even the commander, and under the officers of the Jews together, they seized Jesus and bound him, and they led him away first to Annas, for he was the father-in-law of Cleopas, who was also the high priest of that year. Cleopas was one who had given counsel to the Jews that it was advantageous for one man to perish for the people. Now, and Simon Peter and another disciple who followed Jesus, and that disciple was known to be a high priest, and entered together with Jesus into the court of the high priest. Okay, one thing you got to realize right here is that they're entering the court of the high priest. They are all high priests, because you did not go in there unless you were. But Peter stood at the door outside. The other disciple, who was known to be the high priest, went out and spoke to the doorkeeper and brought Peter in. Okay, now I go on Safaria sometimes when I get stuck on a word and I'm trying to figure out if there's any other information on it. Safaria is a Jewish publication, online site for all kinds of information. You can read the Talmud, you can read the Zohar, you can read all kinds of things on it. Well, they have Klein Dictionary, and Klein, according to the Klein, Cleopas means the rock. And I found other notations that say that Cleopas was none other than Simon Peter. So he's the one saying it was better for one person to die for the nation than for the nation to die. And I paraphrase that. Okay, here's a source I have for Peter being the same, one and the same. And let's see if I can get that where you can read it. Okay. This is a book called Jesus and the Pharisee, a book of the Jewish Jesus, and it was done in 1985 by the Paulinist Press. And they stated that R. Jacob Tam expressed the belief that Peter, Simon Cleopas, was the first pope, was a devout and learned Jew who dedicated his life guiding Christians along the proper path. R. Tam further maintained that Peter was also the author of the Nishmat prayer recited on the Sabbaths and festivals, as well as the prayer for Yom Kippur. He had articles on Cleopas, and it may be noted Judah Hadash, the leader of the 12th century Hadash Ashkenazi in Germany, was also referred to Peter as a pious man. Okay, so they're saying that Simon Peter and Cleopas, the first, was also the high priest, but also was the first pope. That was blank. Okay. And this is that verse that we just went over. No, this is the other one. This is in John 13:26. And I'm going through these because these are the ones that kind of show how they distorted the text in order to figure out, how to make this sound like it was somebody else that was responsible, when I think that the finger was being pointed at one particular individual. James the Just was a high priest too. He did sacrifices, was in the inner chambers of the temple, and they said that he was on his knees so much that he got calluses on his knees, and that he was the one that was born, sacred from the womb, and he didn't drink any wine and all that stuff. There's a whole lot of writing about him. Eisenhower, I think is how you say his name, has a book out that is, oh my gosh, I have the book and I've read lots of it. I haven't read the whole thing because it is so intense to get through it. It must be 800 pages. But it's all documentation about James the Just. And it's very interesting because I think he was JC. But this verse, when we look at it, Jesus answered, and let's see, let me see if I can read it clearer over here. I might have to blow it up for a minute. Jesus answered, it is he to whom I shall give this soap, S-O-P, when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the soap, he gave it to Judas, they've got Iscariot, son of Simon. Okay, and it says that immediately the devil entered him. Okay, well, when I analyzed it, this is what I got. Then Jesus answered that this is whom I give the soap when I have dipped it. And he dipped the bread and gave it to the Judean Simon Iscariot. So, technically, what happened was they put the son of in there to make it look like it was another person. And when you look at the word for Judah and Judas, it's the exact same word in Hebrew. And it's the exact same word in Greek. So you don't really know if you're talking about Judas or a Judean. But when I put it in the translator, it came back Judean. And the son of was not in there. Of course, I didn't expect the son of to be there because it was not in the manuscript. Okay. Okay, and then we have another one in John 6:71. Every verse I checked where it has the son of Simon, when they're talking about Judas, the son of is not there in the manuscripts that was added in the English. That's pretty sad. But this is John 6:71. What we have in the English on our version is He spake of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, for he was that should betray him, being one of the 12. Okay, when you do a mechanical on that, this is what you get. He spoke of the Judean, or Judas Simon Iscariot, for this one he intended to betray him into the hands of another. He was one of the 12. So there was no son of. There was only either Judas Simon Iscariot or the Judean Simon Iscariot. That would have been the name. And I checked that over and over and over, several things, and I just could not find a single manuscript that had the son of in there. Okay. See if I can read this one. No, that's the same verse. That's just where I checked a different version. I do that a lot. I'll go and I'll check one version and then I go check another version and I just keep looking at, like I find one manuscript and then I'll go to Bible Hub and it gives you all the Greek, like all the different manuscripts, and you can see if there's any change in the sentence in the Greek. And I'll check the ones that are changed to see if they read differently. That's what I'm doing when you see those second cards like that. Oh, and no, it is crazy, Tracy. It's like they want us to think that they were a bunch of dumb, unlearned bumpkins, and most of them were high priests working in the temples. It's like reading the manuscripts and knowing the scriptures, and it's unreal. Now, this is very interesting because when you look at Deuteronomy 6:3, this verse literally can read, instead of Shema Israel, how we were taught, if you ever did the Hebrew roots or any of that, it'll say that, like, it's like it's like a hero Israel, Yahweh our Elohim is one, but it's like if you break down the actual Hebrew, it can literally mean at the beginning of the sentence, and you, Simon, or Shimon, will rule as God, because Israel can also mean will rule as God, and save your people, all that stuff. The rest of it's the same. But I thought that was really interesting because you've got a Lamed, and then you have the Shimon, which actually Simon comes from the Shema. And when you look at it as a proper noun, it can mean Simeon or Simon, the actual word for the Shema. And I think Hashem, the Simon, or the name are all speaking of the same person. And one reason I think that is because when we go to Zechariah 14:9, it says, "And the Lord will be king over all the earth, and that day the Lord will be one, and his name one." Okay. This is the breakdown. Let me see if I can get this where you can see it a little better. Okay. All right. That I color code everything. The green on the end there, the tav, that is a suffix for you. And the red letters there, the shin, mem, I went out the window. That is Simon or Shema. Okay, and the lamed at the beginning of the word means and. So it can read, "and you, Simon." They break everything down into root words with prefixes and suffixes, and it's pretty amazing, really. But this is where I broke all of it down. Now, they would differ with me on this because they say that it's got to have a kamatz are Shiva, which are the Nikud vowel sounds, the little marks that you see around the words, little dots and dashes and stuff. Well, those did not even come into existence until the Middle Ages. So, how in the heck are they delineating that if they weren't even around back then? I mean, there's something really amiss with what they did to the languages. This was just where I was breaking down further the words and seeing how much of each word, it's like the shim and shim are exactly the same. Hashem has the shim in front of it. It's like the shim. And Shimon has an extra, let's see, I'm trying to think. It's a, okay, it just went out of my mind. It's an N in Hebrew. But it's like every word is almost identical. It's like there's these little variant things here, there. Like Hashem means the name, and then the Shem, and then Shem, and Shimon are Simon. They're all almost exactly the same. Okay. And what it means actually is heard. Simon or Shimon means to be heard, okay? And Shema means to hear, listen, or obey, according to the Brown Driver Briggs. I use Brown Driver Briggs a lot because it's a really good book that breaks down a lot more meanings to words than what we have in just like the Strongs. And also, it gives you the etymology and what the word meant. So you can look at the Shema and Simon, and you get the same definition, basically. Okay. And this is very interesting because the Shem, which would be the same word, is according to the I want to make sure I quote this right. The Tannic term describes the hidden name of God. Maimonides thought that Shem Ha Misforash was used only for the four-letter word tetragrammaton. So the Shem is also tied to the hidden word for the real meaning for God. Pretty interesting. Okay, where are we at here? And also interesting is, like in Revelation where it says, I saw the beast rising out of the earth and it had two horns like a lamb and it spoke like a dragon. Well, we have another Elohim coming up out of the earth in 1 Samuel 28:13, and it is Samuel. Okay? And it's the same thing like the Shema. It's El is God, and Shema, Samuel is actually the Shema with the word El or God on the end. Same thing. So crazy. And all this does have a point. I mean, I know this is a lot to go over, but I don't think that people will get it until you know these little facts about it. Okay. Exodus 13:2. We have in English, sanctify unto me all the firstborn whatsoever openeth the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and of beast, it is mine. Okay, I got kind of shocked when I was trying to learn Hebrew and I got to this part. It's like, because when you look at the Hebrew, it's devote to me all the firstborn, Peter. That is the word that they have for opens, okay? All the wombs from my son, Israel, in Edom or Rome, same word. And in this, to me, he is the beast, which is literally translated as behemoth. So he's literally saying that Peter is behemoth to him in that sentence in Hebrew. And you would never catch that if you're not learning Hebrew. But when you go look at the Strong's numbers, you can go look at them. It's H6363. It'll say firstborn, firstling, that separates or opens. Okay, and when you go up to where it's pronounced, it says Peter, because that's how it's pronounced. Okay, when you go to it, that was in the Brown Driver Brig. When you go to it in the Strongs, it says a fissure, a firstling, an opening, and it's or the matrix, and it's like you still get the same thing when you go look at how to pronounce it. It's Peter. So was it Peter, or was it something else? Was it the matrix, or was it Peter? Now I kind of maintain that it was Peter, because when you go to Rome, if you go to St. Peter's Basilica, which is the main church for the Catholic Church, the focal point of the altar, the focal point to the right of the altar, and the focal point at the front of the church, and the focal point under the altar are all about Peter. They have nothing to do, really, with Jesus. You have Peter's four-horned altar. You have Peter's bones under the altar in a little thing underneath. Then over to the right, you have Peter's statue. Then up front, you have Peter's chair elevated, being held by the four gospel people, and angels are coming and going down from this big glass thing. I'm going to show you in a few minutes. But it's like everything in that church is centered around Peter, not around Jesus. And I was not taught that when I became Catholic. So that was a big eye-opener for me. Okay. Here's just more that I pulled up. Let's see, which ones are these? I pulled up the Brown Driver Brig. Uh-oh. Alright. And his name also means to separate, to remove, or to burst through. And to cleave, dismiss, shoot, slip away. I mean, they have a lot of meanings for all this. And then those are the ones I already read you. The firstborn, firstling, fissure, he that opens the wound, the matrix. All the firstborn of the matrix are mine. Some versions read. Okay. I'm going to have to blow that up. I can't read it. Okay. And then Ezekiel 20:26, we have Peter's name again. In English, what we have right now is, I polluted them in their own gifts, in that they caused to pass through the fire that opened the wound, that I might make them desolate, to the end that they might know that I am the Lord. Okay. Got several words in there that were added. The fire was added, and am. Probably got words left out too. But I went through and analyzed, and it says, and defile them in their gifts by passing all Peter's womb, in order that their name, for the benefit of their name, that they know that I am Yahweh. So Peter's in that one also. And they added fire. There was no fire in that verse. I can show y'all that. Let me pull it back down. Uh-oh. I keep getting the chat box way up high. I don't know why. Okay, come on. It's close. Oh, this is not cool. Uh-oh. I've never had this happen, y'all. I've got a chat box all over my thing. How do I collapse that? Oh, there it goes. Whew. Okay. All right. Now. And actually, their name, Hashem, can be in that sentence too, but Peter is right up there where the matrix would be again. It's like it can be either or, but if you take that word right there, and put it in any translator, it's going to pop up Peter. Okay. And this is what I was telling y'all about the chair. That's the chair up front of St. Peter's. And see how it's elevated up and the 4 dudes underneath are holding it. I don't know if you can see it very good. But it's got 4 guys underneath holding it by the chair bottom. It's got 2 cherubs on each side. And it's being elevated up front in the front of the church. And I believe, this will probably shock people, but I believe, just reading the Old Testament in Hebrew, I believe that the Ark of the Covenant was actually inside of that chair. That it is, like when they made the chair, they put it inside. That would be for another day for me when I'm talking about Ezekiel's temple. But John 1:5, he said, truly, in the end, I say to you, you will see heaven open and the angels of God ascending and descending on the Son of Man. And I think it has to do with this chair and who sits in it. Okay, because we know that in Matthew 21:42, Jesus said to them, have you never read the scriptures? The stone which was the builders rejected, the same has become the head and corner. By the Lord this has been done, and it is wonderful for our eyes. Therefore I say to you that the kingdom of God shall be taken from you, and shall be given to the nation yielding the fruits thereof. And whosoever shall fall on that stone shall be broken, but on whomsoever it shall fall, it shall grind him to powder. And when the chief priests and the Pharisees had heard the parable, they knew that he spoke of them. And seeking to lay hands on him, they feared the multitude because they held him as a prophet. So he's literally talking about that this is a parable, and it's like this rock is going to be the stone that will be broken, and whoever falls on it will be broken, and then if it falls on them, they shall be ground to powder. And by the way, people, I'm not saying this, if there's any Catholics in the room, I'm not saying this because of, to bash the Catholic Church. I used to be Catholic. I hope it wakes Catholics up, to see the truth. But there's just a lot in here that people don't even realize is here. And that's the same that I just read. Okay. And that we don't need. Alrighty. Okay. This is hard to explain, but I think Peter is Jupiter and brought the Lucifer as a deity to the masses by forming the Catholic Church. It's like when we read 2 Peter 1:19 in the Latin Vulgate, the word for the day star is actually the Lucifer, okay, in Latin. Okay, when we read it in English, it's like, and we have a more firm prophetic word, whereupon you do well to attend as to the light that shineth in a dark place until the day dawn and the day star arise in your hearts. And literally, that word in Greek is phosphorus. Okay. All right. And when you look up Lucifer in the etymology, it'll tell you that the Greek phosphorus is the name for Lucifer. It's the morning star, and it's the name for Lucifer. So the only place we literally do find Lucifer and the whole Bible is from Peter. Okay. And they literally do sing to Lucifer on the Episcopal evening before Easter. And it's as famous as Lucifer's. And I'm going to show y'all that. Let me see if I can do this. Alrighty. Alright. If I can get that where y'all can see it. Okay. Probably gonna have to unplug this one to get that to work.
Seus Lucifer matutinus inveniat, ide in quam Lucifer qui nescito casum, Christus Filius tuus, qui regressus ab inferis, humano generis serenus ibuxit, et tecum vivit et regnat in saecula saeculorum.
So I guess y'all see that. It's like they literally are singing to Lucifer. Okay, now, let's see if I can. Alright. Now, I'm going to show you this one, and you can see that they're worshiping his statue. So they've literally rubbed it until they rubbed the toes off of it. And you see that right there? That over these years, all these years, that has been rubbed until literally the toes are wearing off. I've got one more to show y'all while I've got this set up. I'm going to go ahead and show you the third one. This is the Paschal the vigil on the night before Easter, and this is the lighting of the candle.
Now brings a flame lit from the fire that has recently just been blessed by the Holy Father in order to light the Paschal candle, a very powerful symbol of Christ, the light of the world, as we heard, dispelling the darkness of our hearts and minds in the light of his glory. A darkened basilica, this will be the only light that will begin to light the darkness. And from this light, all the other candles will gradually be lit, including, as we see here, the ministers putting some of the fire from this fire into the thurifer to light the charcoal, which will then burn the incense that will be used this evening. A procession will now begin through the darkened basilica, which will gradually become more and more lit as candles are lit, as we welcome the light of Christ.
Lumen Christi.
The light of Christ, to which we respond, thanks be to God. The candle moves forward with the deacon bearing it, a wax candle extracted by bees from flowers, symbolizes the pure flesh of Christ. Received from his Virgin Mother, the wick signifies his soul, and the flame represents his divinity. Now, the Holy Father has lit his candle from the Paschal candle. The light of Christ rising in glory to dispel the darkness of our hearts and minds is an apt way of defining the light. This connects the Easter candle to Jesus, the light of the world, as he describes himself in the Gospel of John. The fact that all of us light our candle from this shows that he is the source of our light. The flame is also reminiscent of the pillar of fire that led the people of Israel and protected them as they escaped the slavery of the Egyptians. And we'll hear this beautifully proclaimed in the Exalted, which is the hymn.
Yeah, the Exalted is the one they suggest that I just had them show y'all where they were singing. That's the one where they sing to Lucifer.
That proclaims the beautiful symbolism of this candle that helps us enter into the Easter mystery. The procession now moving forward, about 40 cardinals participating in this evening's liturgy, 25 bishops and about 200 priests. And we now see here the catechumens who have been preparing for baptism. Once again, the proclamation, the light of Christ, and our response, thanks be to God. And at this point, other ministers lighting candles in order to begin lighting the candles of other members of the faithful taking part in this evening's liturgy. We saw our Holy Father tracing the cross that is beautifully decorating the candle, etching it with a knife. The cross, of course, the supreme symbol of Jesus, and the instrument through which he saved the world from sin and death. We also heard him calling him the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega, which are two Greek letters, the beginning of the alphabet and the end of the alphabet, commonly used in very early Christian art. These two letters have an ancient history in Christianity, rooted in the book of Revelation, where Jesus says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water without price from the fountain of the water of life. He who conquers shall have this heritage, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. So here we see both the cross and, of course, water in this beautiful reflection from Revelation. Water will also play a very significant part in this evening's liturgy as we welcome new members into the body of Christ. Once again, the deacon bearing the candle further into the basilica, which is becoming lighter and lighter the more people have their candles lit. The Easter Vigil must take place after the sun has gone down in order to also commemorate the Passover, which is highly connected with the celebration of the Easter Vigil.
To me, it's like some creepy.
Nomen Christi.
And for the third and final time, we hear the light of Christ, thanks be to God, at which all of the lights now are lit in the basilica. And at this time, I'd like to welcome all of you who are now joining us through those stations making the worldwide telecast possible. The deacon now placing the Paschal candle near the ambo, from which the Exalted will be sung, and it will stay there for all of the Easter season and will also be used with every baptism and funeral throughout the year.
The Exalted also has to be sung by every priest there. Not one of them cannot sing it. They have to sing it.
The year is also traced on the candle, and it was these words that accompanied the Pope Francis used these words when etching those numbers. All time belongs to him and all the ages, reminding us that God is here with us today and is constantly guiding all of creation to himself. And then he put 5 grains of incense into the candle, large nails, recalling the 5 holy and glorious wounds of Christ.
Yeah, it's candle magic. It's a spell casting, and they probably carve on there the Neko, which is Jesus Christ conquers,
One at the top of the cross, at the bottom, in the middle, and on the two vertical horizontal edges. Everything that we celebrate tonight is a way of allowing us to enter into the memorial of our Lord's resurrection. For in the sense of sacred scripture, a memorial is not merely the recollection of past things, but the proclamation of the mighty works of God. And somehow through the liturgical celebration, these events become present and real, as the Catechism of the Catholic Church teaches us. Our Holy Father has now blessed the incense, as well as the deacon who will proclaim the Exultet. The liturgical movement now moves. We've been using darkness to light, and now we'll move to using words and music to praise and thank God for what the light represents, God's saving activity throughout human history, culminating in Christ's defeat of death and resurrection from the dead. The deacon has finished sensing the text of the Exultet and now senses the Paschal candle itself, both of which are reminders to us of Christ's presence. The text will recall the Passover feast and the journey of the people of God in the desert, the waters of baptism, and the significance of this holy night.
Exultet, iam angelicatur bacelorum. Exultet divina mysteria, et pro tanti regis victoria, tuba insonet salutaris. Gaudeat et tellus tantis irradiata fulgoribus, et eterni regis splendore illustrata, totius orbis essentia, Amisi se caligine.
Exalt. Let them exalt, the hosts of heaven exalt. Let angel ministers of God exalt. Let the trumpet of salvation sound aloud, our mighty King's triumph. Be glad, let earth be glad as glory floods her, ablaze with light from her eternal King. Let all corners of the earth be glad, knowing an end to gloom and darkness. Rejoice, let Mother Church also rejoice, arrayed with the lightning of his glory. Let this holy building shake with joy, filled with the mighty voices of the peoples. Therefore, dearest friends, standing in the awesome glory of this holy light, invoke with me, I ask you, the mercy of God Almighty, that he who has been pleased to number me, though unworthy, among the Levites, may pour into me his light unshadowed, that I may sing this candle's perfect praises.
Lumini sui claritatem infundens, cerei huius laudem, supplere perficia. Dominus vobiscum. Sursum corda. Gratias agamus Domino Deo nostro. Veredinium et justum est, invisibilem Deum Patrem omnipotente, Filiumque eius unigenitum, Dominum nostrum Iesum Christum, toto cordis hac mentis affectum, et vocis ministerio personare.
It is truly right and just, with ardent love of mind and heart, and with devoted service of our voice, to acclaim our God invisible, the Almighty Father, and Jesus Christ our Lord, his Son, his only begotten, who for our sake paid Adam's debt to the eternal Father, and pouring out his own dear blood, wiped clean the record of our ancient sinfulness.
Quibus veros ileanus occiditum, cuius sanguine postes fidelium consecrantum. Ec nox est, in qua primum patres nostros, filios Israel, eductos de Egypto, mare rubrum, sico vestigio transire fecisti.
These, then, are the feasts of Passover, in which is slain the Lamb, the one true Lamb, whose blood anoints the doorposts of believers. This is the night when once you led our forebears, Israel's children, from slavery in Egypt, and made them pass dry-shod through the Red Sea. This is the night that with a pillar of fire banished the darkness of sin.
In Christo credentis, aviti secoli, et caligine peccatorum segregatus, redit gratiae, sociat sanctitatis.
This is the night that even now throughout the world sets Christian believers apart from worldly vices and from the gloom of sin, leading them to grace and joining them to his holy ones. This is the night when Christ broke the prison bars of death and rose victorious from the underworld.
Nihil enim nobis nasci profuit, nisi redimi profuisset. O mira circa nos, tue pietatis dignatio. O inestimabilis dilexio caritatis, ut servum redimeres, filium traditis, ocete necessarium ad peccatis, simul te dilettum est. O felix culpa, quae talem ectantum, meruit habere redemptore. O vere beata nos, quae sola meruit scire tempus et hora, in qua Christus ab inferis resurrexit.
Our birth would have been no gain had we not been redeemed. O wonder of your humble care for us, O love, O charity beyond all telling. To ransom a slave, you gave away your Son. O truly necessary sin of Adam, destroyed completely by the death of Christ. O happy fault that earned so great, so glorious a Redeemer. O truly blessed night. Therefore, O Lord, we pray that you bless this candle, hallowed to the honor of your name. O truly blessed night, worthy alone to know the time and hour when Christ rose from the underworld. This is the night of which it is written, the night shall be as bright as day, dazzling is the night for me, and full of gladness. The sanctifying power of this night dispels wickedness, washes faults away, destroys innocence to the fallen, restores innocence to the fallen, and joy to mourners, drives out hatred, fosters concord, and brings down the mighty.
Sancte Pater, laudis huius sacrificium vespertinum, quod tibi in hoc cerei oblatione solemni per ministrorum manus Deo peribus am.
On this your night of grace, O Holy Father, accept this candle, a solemn offering, the work of bees and of your servants' hands, an evening sacrifice of praise, this gift from your most holy church.
Quam in honorem Dei rutilans ignis accendi, qui licet divisus in partes, mutuatitamen luminis, detrimenta non nobis.
But now we know the praises of this pillar, which glowing fire ignites for God's honor. A fire into many flames divided, yet never dimmed by sharing of its light. For it is fed by melting wax, drawn out by mother bees, to build a torch so precious.
In qua terrenis celestia, humanis divina iunguntur, oramus ergo te.
O truly blessed night, when things of heaven are wed to those of earth, and divine to the human.
Consecratus ad noctis.
Therefore, O Lord, we pray that this candle, hallowed to the honor of your name, may persevere undimmed to overcome the darkness of the night. Receive it as a pleasing fragrance, and let it mingle with the lights of heaven.
Supernis luminaribus misceat.
May this flame be found still burning by the morning star, the one morning star who never sets. FDA
Nocifermat inveniat. Ille in quam Lucifer, qui nescit occasum, Christus filius tuus, qui regressus ad inferis, humano generis serenus iluxi, et tecum vivit et regnat in saecula saeculorum.
Put this back in. Now, if you could catch that end of it or not, but the very end is where they sing that part about Lucifer. Flaming Lucifer is what it says. But that's what they honor is the Christ and the flame as the flaming Lucifer on the night before Easter Sundays. Yeah, they'll say morning star, but he's singing Lucifer in the Latin because it's the same word. Yeah, it's pretty intense. It's like that's like the ultimate in a ritual. That is like witchcraft because they actually carve into the candle and all. That is when I realized that there was something massively wrong with the Catholic Church. That was when I actually realized it. This verse in Second Peter 1:19 is where they get that from, because we have the day star until the day dawn and the day star arise in your hearts, and it's literally I'm going to blow it up so I can read it better. It says we have a more firm prophetic word, whereto you do well to attend as to the light that shineth in a dark place until the day dawn and the day star or the Lucifer arises in your hearts. That's literally what Peter has written. And that is the only place you find the word Lucifer in the entire Bible. It was not in the Isaiah verses. It was only in Peter. I think I'm going to stop there for tonight. This is a lot of stuff on Peter. I mean, he literally set all this up. People don't realize it, but this was set up in the first century. And people that think that he was not elected as Pope, he was. It's in your scriptures, but they didn't translate it like an election. It even talks about the smoke in there too. We'll cover that tomorrow night, probably. I mean, the next night we do this. But I'm going to open it up, see if anybody wants to talk or have questions or anything like that. This kind of went on a long time, but I wanted y'all to see those things because that's something, if you have not been raised in the Catholic Church, and even if you have, if you're in the United States or you're in some small community, you're not going to see that part. It's like you only find out about it if you really start digging in and studying.
I remember seeing that video about 4 or 5 years ago about them singing to Lucifer. And I mean, I was totally asleep at that point, but it just, I think that was the start of me kind of waking up to so many of these deceptions, especially in the church.
This is the same night they confirmed almost all the little children into the church that have gone through their catechisms and to be confirmed into the church. Like in Revelations, it says, "Who is worthy to break the seals?" I believe those 7 seals are the 7 sacraments of the Catholic Church, and I believe that Jesus Bar Abba is the only one that can break them.
Mm.
Once you've said that, because I was confirmed in there too. So it's literally like the taking of the mark of the beast, because this is the third temple. I don't know if any of y'all have watched my videos on Ezekiel's temple, but the Vatican is the third temple. And this is a continuation of Kabbalism is what it is, and witchcraft.
Yeah.
Would anybody like to come up or have any questions or have any testimonies about what they've been through the Catholic Church? Or
I'm not Catholic, but my ex-husband was. And I had a problem with that. Even when we got married, he wanted us to, get married in the Catholic Church. And I said that I wasn't going to get married and have mass because I just didn't, agree with it. It was like my spirit had known all of this time that there was something way off. And then the other thing, like now that I know this truth and I know about, taking communion and everything, because he was Catholic and I wasn't Catholic, they forbid me to take communion. So they have all these rules and everything set up. Now I know that communion is not, it's not about the worship of our true Father Baraba. It's about that of the Christ. But at the time I didn't know. But I just found that to be sketchy.
yeah, when Paul talks about it, he talks about always carrying around the dead body of Christ in us.
Mm.
And when I read that when I was reading Paul's writings, I was like, what did that just say? And oh man, I got really creeped out. I was like, oh gosh, and I did take communion in that church I was confirmed in. I was like, where was my head at?
Yeah.
Because it's literally cannibalism. They think that the body and that the bread and the wine actually become the body and blood of Jesus, and then you consume it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what they say when they hand you the wafer, body of Christ.
Yep.
That's what they say.
And Jesus said, "Where the body is, there the vultures will be also."
Mm-hmm. It's so very disturbing.
It is.
I have a very good friend who's Catholic who I've been trying to give this truth to, and I'm working on her in stages. She's afraid to hear it, like we've talked about before, but she's Catholic, and she does know. She is awake enough to know that there's something very wrong with the Catholic Church, and it's not, worshiping the true Father. So I'm grateful she knows that part. It's a start, as I try to, share this truth with her.
Well, this was a tiny, tiny church where I joined in my small town, population of 3,000 when I was young. And I was engaged to a Catholic guy, like you were talking about. And we talked it over and decided that since I believed in Jesus at that point, that it would be better if we both went to the same church. It would make our marriage stronger, blah, blah, blah. So I joined the Catholic Church. And I kept telling the priest, I said, there's certain things of this I just really can't buy into. I said, but he said, you do believe in Jesus, don't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, that's good enough. And he just went ahead and confirmed me anyway, even though I didn't believe in everything, but I did take communion.
I ended up, I have too, and I regret that. But when we got married, right after the ceremony, they had a piece of paper for us to sign, and they made me sign it, saying that when we had children, that we would raise them as Catholic. And I mean, even at the time, I even literally turned to my husband and said, well, isn't this setting us up for failure already? They're literally making me sign a piece of paper saying I will raise my children as Catholic.
Right.
Because, we didn't have children, so I didn't even have to go down that road. But, it's just funny how I knew even back then. That was in 1994, and I just knew back then in my spirit that there was something I've always known there was something way off with the church, but the Catholic Church especially. Does anybody have any questions or want to come up?
You know, what I find so odd, it's like we've got so many Catholics now that are learning about Father and Jesus Bar Abba, and it's like, and it's like we were serious about what we believed back then. It was like we we needed more. We needed more information, really. You know, it's like we were looking for the truth, and eventually He brought us there, even though we went through all this process of all this.
I think
It's
we had
really
to go.
strange.
I think we had to go through it to come to the truth. You know, we had to go through it, I think, to see that it wasn't right and to see the deception, you know, just like the same thing with talking about like the Yahweh being the God of the Old Testament. Like I've known my entire life and always felt something was way off with that, you know, and I just, you know, we're all indoctrinated, and I would talk to the pastor, they'd give us an explanation and I'd be like, all right, you know, but it just never set right with me. And it was the same thing with the Catholic Church. It was the same thing in the church I was going to up until I learned this truth. You know, there were things that bothered me, but I just kind of dismissed them. And that's part of the indoctrination, I think, you know, and I think for at least for me, it made it very easy when I learned this truth and found this channel and I found your teachings going off. I was like all in, like right away. It didn't take a whole lot for me to be able to see it, you know.
And you can see now so clear. It's like there's Jesus saying, no man should ever call him the Christ. Then he's warning in Matthew 24:5, you know, that would be the main deception. Many are going to come, they're going to call me the Christ, and they're going to lead everybody astray. And then immediately after he's gone, there's Peter and Paul proclaiming there's no other name by which you can be saved.
Well, and
Except for
did you
it,
notice the woman in the video? She never used I mean, at the very end, she said the word Jesus Christ, but the entire time she kept saying the Christ, the Christ, the Christ, or God, God, God. She didn't say the name of Jesus. At the very end, she said that, you know, Jesus Christ. But it's just so clear. Like, it's so crystal clear, especially when we watch that video.
Hey Lee, how's it going?
Hey, Lee.
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I decided to bite you up because you're always so nice to me when I visit your lives.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Well, nice to hear you anyway. How is everybody?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. It's been a rough day, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, we are. We just want to go home, right?
Yeah, that's the truth. I'm tired of this world.
Yeah, I mean, I was just in a live there, and I don't know, it gets really heated, you know, and it's hard not to feed into it. And like, I get attacked so much. Like, I always get called like uneducated, low IQ. It's just, you know.
Well, you're doing a big task on a lot of things because I've watched a couple of the more recent ones, and it's like you're trying to expose the small hats, and that's no easy feat.
No,
You know?
no. Especially with the Islamic angle as well, you know.
Oh yeah.
And people like they don't want to entertain it. Like they want to believe that everyone can sort of coexist, you know. And it's like they're diametrically opposed to each other in end times prophecy. And it's just like they can't see what's coming, and it's scary, you know. And you know, I'm speaking to Muslims, and they seem to know. They seem to feign ignorance, you know, and sort of try to get us on side, you know.
Yeah, I think seeing Peter was one of the hardest things I did, but it's like, when you get to thinking about what all he said to him, and then when you realize that the son of is missing in all those verses about Judas, it's like, uh-oh, there's a problem, you know. I think he was the one in Acts 2 that said, I don't think we should lay any further burdens on these people than these things. And then that's how Satan is described in Revelation, you know, is they'll say, we lay no further burdens on them than these few things, you know. It's the same exact wording.
Hmm.
Oh, and Antipas, it says that Satan lives where Antipas um, was unalived, and he was unalived in some kind of boiling pot thing that was in the shape of a cow, and it was right up there by Geneva, by CERN, right in that same area. And I also noticed in Ezekiel, Satan is referred to as the Prince of Tyre. Well, Tyre was right south of there. It's all interesting.
Tracy says the Gnostics say Judas was Jesus's closest friend and that he understood the teachings.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I've read it in like that book they said they found on the Gospel of Judas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's in there too.
Yeah. Could be Tracy. There was somebody.
Eleanor, did you not? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ellen.
I was just going to say, Eleanor, did you not say at one point not too long ago that there might not have been a Judas Iscariot? That might have just been a scapegoat, thing they put in there to cover up for JC.
I think it
I
was
don't know.
Judas Simon Iscariot. I think it was like one
Right.
whole
Okay,
name.
that's what you said.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah, because there's no son of in that sentence in Greek.
So then
Right.
it was actually Peter that betrayed
I think so.
Yeah.
Judas, yeah. Which makes sense based
Yeah,
on
because
what we just watched and what you're showing.
he denied him with oaths and curses.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when he denied him, it was with oaths and curses. And he said, if any man denied him, he would deny him before the Father.
Yeah.
Also, and he was always his statements are always kind of weird in there too. It's like, what's in it for me if we do this, you know? And when you when you start looking at the statements surrounding Peter, it gets really weird, you know. Like when he went in to raise that little girl Tabitha, it's like they were literally laughing at him, like he was out of his mind and couldn't do that.
Hmm.
You know, the text said that they laughed at him, and I thought, would you really be in the presence of Jesus Barabbas and
Wow.
laugh at him?
Right.
You know, what does that say?
Hmm.
Y'all have any other questions, anybody?
There was somebody early on that was in the chat, and I wish she would have stayed because I would have invited her up. But she said, "How is any of this leading to salvation?" And what I wanted to write was that this is leading to salvation, and that following Peter and the Christ is leading you away from salvation. But she's not here anymore, I don't think.
Yeah, I tried to explain this to one of my Catholic friends, and they got upset with me.
Yeah, well, it's a big subject.
It's a hard one to take, isn't it, for them?
It's
Oh,
hard.
yeah.
Nice title. You know, it's so indoctrinated within everybody that that's who we should believe in. Like, we should be calling on Jesus Christ. But, you know, and when I hear people talk of testimonies when they're getting spiritually attacked, I often hear that they just call out Jesus. They don't actually call out Jesus Christ. You know, so that makes me wonder.
Yeah. Who is this? You're gonna have to say your name for me.
I just go by Rolos.
Okay. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we hear you great.
Cool.
Do you have a question for us?
Yeah, maybe, I suppose. Artist, I've been following you on YouTube now for, I don't know, handful of months, 6 months or so. I love your work on Yahweh. It's fantastic stuff. You went really deep into it in a lot of different ways and covered a lot of different areas and pointed out many things. So I do appreciate your work on all of that and look forward to always seeing more moving forward. Um, I guess I'm being a little held up on this whole Jesus Barabbas thing. Um, I almost feel, and I don't want you guys to necessarily take this the wrong way, because I do like you guys, and I'm not trying to come in here and cause problems or give you guys a hard time or whatever. But I feel like you kind of just found like one little story in the Bible where you found another name Jesus, and now you're like proclaiming that Barabbas is the son of our Father. And in my head, that just sounds like way more confusion for anyone that's like looking into some of this stuff, especially any of the stuff regarding to Yahweh. I think that's a huge message. And I think it's something that does need to be spread more for people to understand. But the whole Barabbas thing, to me, it's like, I feel like you guys are kind of reaching for something that's not totally there and potentially looking for things, and you're thinking you're finding things that aren't really there. I don't really see where you guys are having any hard proof or evidence of this claim, whereas in the work with Yahweh, there is comparison after comparison, scripture after scripture, things Jesus said versus what Yahweh said. There's so much proof in there, it's really hard to deny. And I have been listening to you guys a little bit on the whole Barabbas thing, and I'm just not really hearing or seeing any solid evidence of anything.
There's probably more than you think, and it's probably because I haven't compiled it all like I did with the other into one net thing where you can see it side by side. Because
Okay.
it's like things like you've got one Jesus that's saying, "I came to light fire on the earth, and I wish it was already lit." Like he's ready to burn everything up. Then you've got the other Jesus talking to James and John when they want to call fire down and telling them, you don't know what kind of spirit you're from.
Right.
You know. Then you've got one saying, don't swear any oaths, to like, even by God and the altar and all that stuff. And he gives this long list of things don't swear by. Then you've got the other one saying, I'm giving you another covenant. And a covenant is a swearing of an oath by the drinking and eating of my body and blood,
Mm-hmm.
So you've got two different things, and one of them says, trying to think of another good example. Well, you've got the two different descriptions of them. Because for the Christ one, he's called a firstborn. Well, a firstborn in Greek has brothers and sisters, and he's born of a mother and a father.
Well, wouldn't that have been Jesus of Nazareth?
There would have been one there. The Christ one would have been born of a mother and father. Then you have a second Jesus that John describes that's described in Greek as a monogene. Well, a monogene only has one parent, and they're a single gene. They cannot have a mother and a father, and they do not have any brothers and sisters. They're a one-of-a-kind, unique thing.
That's actually kind of interesting. I see how you're seeing it that way. That actually makes me think of something. Have you guys ever heard of Ron Wyatt and his discoveries?
Uh-huh.
Did you hear about the Ark of the Covenant and the blood on it?
I think he's been thoroughly debunked, to be honest. Like, I think the Ark itself, not Noah's Ark, I think that's
Goodness.
could be verifiable.
I'll go home.
Yeah, I think like the actual Ark story, Ark of the Covenant story it's very shaky.
Hold on.
I mean, yeah, to an extent, yeah. I mean, I can agree. I haven't looked too far into all of his work and whether he's been debunked or not. I'm just mentioning kind of in passing on based on what artists had just said. When they said they had, I'm sorry.
No, carry on. Sorry.
Okay. So when they had found the Ark of the Covenant, they had found blood on it. And I guess they studied the blood, and, blood dries, and when it goes old, it goes dead, whatever. Apparently this was still like, even though it was dried up, just add some water to it or whatever, and it became living blood again. It was still live, it was still active. Again, this is just what I've heard. But they did say they studied the blood and that it only had 23 chromosomes when all humans have 46, I believe, which would mean that he only received DNA from one person, a mono. So I actually see how it could work kind of both ways, if that were to be a true thing.
Yeah, if it were true, yeah, it would align with what I'm saying. But it's like there's so many things. It's like when he tells him, he said, "Of those born of women, none is greater than John the Baptist, but the least in heaven is greater than him." So where would that put Jesus if he was born of a woman? You see what I mean? I think he was telling us things in a way we have to think about it. It's not like it doesn't just come out. It's like then you have one Jesus that they always recognize, and then you have another Jesus that they can't recognize, especially after the resurrection. And that happens within hours. One of them, they know who he is. They can put their hand in his wound. The other one, they don't recognize, and he says, "Don't touch me." So once you start seeing it, it's like, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did we miss this? It's like, I'm trying to think of the other examples off the top of my head.
Well, he commanded that no one call him the Christ. I mean, and you just look at
Right.
the video that we just watched. He said, "Do not call me the Christ." And then we just witnessed what the Catholic Church referred to. It was Christ this, Christ, 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 and not anything to do with Jesus at all.
I'm okay with the whole Jesus didn't want to be called Christ. I'm okay with that. I don't think that necessarily plays into that there were two Jesuses because of that. I think they all saw him as the Messiah, hence being the Christ. And despite him saying, "Don't call me that," that's just how they saw him, and that's what they continued to call him.
I must admit that is something I do ponder.
You've thought that through too, then? Well, that's good. I'm glad I'm not the only one that's...
There's a lot of people saying, and I didn't expect everybody to understand this right off, because it took me a while to decide to even make that video, because I was like, I've got to be sure. But it's like he says things like, "I come in my Father's name. When another one comes in his own name, you'll receive him." It's like, my Father's name. And everybody keeps wanting to make the name, like Yeshua, and then match Yahweh and all this stuff. But it doesn't really happen, because we don't have any Hebrew manuscripts whatsoever until 1400 of the New Testament. Okay, and then he said he comes in his Father's name. Well, Bar Abba means son of the Father.
Right.
And it's like, you put that together with that, and it's like, well, yeah. And it's like, and then I got to thinking, I was sitting there, because I think a lot. Y'all don't realize how much time I spend just looking at the text and thinking. Because I was thinking, now why would all these people, if they were the ones that he healed and cured and did all these wonderful things, why would they be yelling for him to be crucified? The public? It's like, you could see the high priest doing that, but the public deciding that they want him unalived? It's like, and these are the same people that he's been walking around, and they were such mass crowds that sometimes he had to get in a boat so they wouldn't be trampled. And they followed him for days without even food, so he was doing some miraculous stuff for people to be doing that. And it's like, and so these are the same ones that were laying palm trees and stuff at his feet as he comes in the city before all this happened. But then all of a sudden they want him unalive. That doesn't make any sense. And then I got to looking at how they had changed the Bibles, like the modern versions say that he has a blindfold on, but the old versions describe that he has a head covering. Well, I went back and looked at the actual Greek words, and it meant that he had a full head covering when he was unalived. So nobody would have known that whether it was him or not.
Where was that from?
Like, when they're going to take him to the cross, and they beat him to a pulp, they beat him in the face, and it specifically says they beat him in the face. They beat him the night before, and then they beat him that morning before he was crucified. Well, if you've ever seen anybody that's been beaten up in the face that much, you would not recognize them because of the swelling, and it just gets really gross. I work trauma. It gets really bad when somebody beats somebody in the face. And then it says that they covered his head completely. In the Greek text, it says it's covered completely, but they've changed that from a head covering to a blindfold now. And I'm like, and they made him put on the robes of a high priest and parade around, and then put him back in his own clothes before they took him to the cross too. Okay, now when you look at, my thing is, I think James the Just was the one they called the Christ. I have a lot of reasons for that. Josephus called him the Christ in his writings, and then when Yahweh always mentions his servant in the Old Testament, he mentions him as the just one or the righteous one. And James was historically documented as being a major high priest in the temple. He was called the just one, and he was considered to be sacred from the womb. He drank no wine, all kinds of things. I mean, they claim all kinds of stuff about him. He was on his knees praying so much that he had calluses on his knees. And he wore the purple robe because he was one of the high priests. And he did the sacrifices and everything in the temple. And it's like, so my thinking is they took Bar-Abba and they put him in his robe. And they switched him is what they did. And so it was actually Bar-Abba that went to the cross.
Okay, that's what I was
because
getting
you've got that weird.
Barabbas died, and what did Jesus continue on living and lived out the rest of his life?
Yeah, because see, the Christ one is talked about by the historian as being in Rome in 10 years later. And then we have all these tales of him going to Europe and all this stuff, and it's like there's something very, very much amiss with that. And then it said Herod and Pilate became friends that day after they had a discussion about what to do. And would Pilate have really sent him to unalive him with his wife, telling him that she had a bad dream? And because they were very superstitious too.
Right.
Because she was warning him, do not have anything to do with that. And Pilate says, I'm washing my hands of it. And it's like, so how did he wash his hands of it? They probably took him in the back, changed clothes, and took Bar-Abba to the cross. Is what I'm thinking.
Possibility.
Yeah. I just think about my main sticking point is the crowds. Because when I read how many miles they went following him with no food, and he fed them, and then he was healing everybody that was sick. They said they brought him to him, and he was just healing people. And it was at one time they were worried that they were going to be trampled, so he got in a boat and preached from a boat on the edge of the shore to the crowds on the beach so that they wouldn't trample him down. That's a lot of people going after one person.
Right.
And the high priest even says something about, oh, look, the whole world's already gone after him. We're probably too late.
So then, in your guys' thought process, just to help me better understand, sorry, I think I just lost my train of thought. Sometimes I have too many thoughts going at the same time in my head, especially on subjects like this.
I suffer with that.
Yeah.
Hey Rolos, have you watched her video on her YouTube channel that the one that's titled Jesus Christ or Jesus Barabba?
I honestly don't know.
I mean, that would be a really good place to start if, because
Yeah.
she goes through that. It's about a 3-hour video, if I'm not mistaken, artist, I think, or 3.5, but it's an excellent video. And that, like, when I first learned this truth, about both Yahweh and about the two Jesuses, like the two videos that really impacted me the most were, did Father warn us that Yahweh is the devil, and then the Jesus Christ versus Jesus Barabba. And I mean, she goes through and breaks it down even further, with different scripture and different things that happen. So I might recommend that you watch that. It might
Yeah,
help you a little bit.
I'll certainly make sure I check that out. My guess is I probably started it, but if it was that long, I probably didn't get through all of it.
Yeah.
So again, forgive me for some of my just random questions and stepping in the middle of.
No, that's fine. I don't ever mind answering questions.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
why
I
I'm
think
doing this whole live thing, is so people have access to me to actually talk to me.
Yeah, I
You
think that's
know.
great, actually. Yeah, for sure. And I hope you keep doing these.
But you'll find more and more. Every time I open the book now, I'm finding more. It's like I'm rereading every chapter, trying to look for, okay, is it which one did this and which one did that?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Okay.
one of them has. I'll tell you one way I'm figuring it out. One of them has the nature of Yahweh in the Old Testament, and the other one has the nature of Father in Heaven, which is like loving everybody, healing, good things, And then you can kind
Maybe
of
that's
like
just
see it a
and I
lot
haven't seen
easier.
that.
Yeah. But I think he gave us a clue himself when he said, the one from earth speaks of earthly things, and the one from heaven speaks of heavenly things, and the
Right.
one from heaven is above all.
And Jesus said he wasn't from here.
Right. He said this isn't he actually called us where we're at when he said, I'm from above and you're from below. When you look at the Greek, it's katokosmos, and it means the underworld or hell. We are the captives, I think he came to set free.
Some of the Gnostic texts do talk about the idea of thought that we are actually like the fallen angels and we were entrapped in these physical bodies. And in a way, Satan creates physicality, which is kind of just an imitation of what really is, if that makes any kind of sense. Gnostic stuff gets a little out there. I don't know how far you guys have gone into any of that, but
I read
it's
some of the
pretty interesting stuff.
Hagamadi text, and
Yeah.
I've read some of the, there's another one called the Other Bible, and to me, there's just too much, I don't know, New Age stuff in it. It just doesn't seem right somehow. So I've been basically sticking to the red letter text and just analyzing the Greek.
Right, but the further you've been digging, how accurate does our book seem right now, We all thought it was pretty accurate, and then we started digging, and we're like, oh man, this thing is jumbled and deceiving and missing text here and
Yeah,
changed
it's
words
messed
there.
up, but I think it's like a box of crayons that are broken. You can still color a picture with it,
Yeah, it's all still
but it
there.
needs fixing.
Yep.
It needs some work.
Okay, so I think I remember my question now. So then, in your guys' mindset, what was Jesus' purpose then of coming here? Just to warn us of the Father, and people weren't understanding that they were worshiping the wrong Father, and that was his message? Or did he actually break Yahweh's?
He said he came to pay a ransom for us. So, like what you just mentioned with the Gnostic text, like I do believe, the $1 million question is, how did we get here?
Right.
What happened? But that whole word that he came to pay a ransom tells me that we're being held captive in Yahweh's. I think we're in a prison construct. I think we're in.
I can agree with that. All right.
And I think he came to warn us about the two Jesus. I mean, he came to tell us who Yahweh was. He came to tell us who he was and to follow him and to not be deceived into following the Christ. You know, so I think he came to set us free.
I think that's where I'm on like the same page with you guys with this. I do feel in my own way that there is like a kind of a false Jesus within the Bible. I can't say I've been trying to like pick it out like you guys have, but just kind of like how we were just talking earlier, how they wanted to call him Christ because that's how they saw him as their Messiah, and in a sense and in a way, the book was kind of written in that way to lead people in the end to worship him as Christ when he's not.
Right.
So
Well, when you call him that, you make him Yahweh's son, you know.
right, and that's kind of what I'm saying. And I grew up Roman Catholic actually, and it's still a hard practice for me to break that of saying Jesus Christ. I'm trying. It's tough to break though.
Oh, it was hard for me. I'm finally getting it now. But
It was hard
boy,
for
to
me.
begin with, I would just like, oh, why did I say that word again? And now it really bothers me. But we've got like an explosion of just using just that word. I don't know if you've noticed it or not, but it's like the Christ consciousness, and all the churches have dropped Jesus. They're just saying Christ, Christ, Christ. You know, it's wild. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
I forget where I saw it, but I saw somebody who put together a video, and they had some old book that was kind of comparing very old, early Bible text from more modern ones, and the word Christ is not in there nearly as much as it is now.
No, it's been added in a lot of places.
It's been added so many places. It was actually kind of nuts. I wish I could remember where I saw that video, but very interesting to know that it wasn't in there nearly as much as we see it in there in today's current state of it. Whether you're reading a King James or NIV or whatever you choose, you know.
Like Acts 19, you know, they have the Jewish exorcist vagabonds, and they are calling people crazy for worshiping the Lord Jesus, having them denounce that Jesus and swear an oath to the Jesus that Paul teaches. Okay. They use the word adjure, and being from Mississippi, I didn't know adjure meant to swear an oath, to be honest. I had to look it up. But what they're doing is having them denounce one and swear an oath to the one that Paul teaches. And then you got Paul coming around behind it in his gospel saying, or his writing saying that if anybody preach a different Jesus than mine, let them be accursed. That's nothing that Jesus would have taught.
Right.
And like he blinds a man in Acts 2, he wouldn't have, Jesus didn't tell him to go blind people. He said go heal the blind. It's like there's just so many things, you know.
Paul did that?
What?
Who did that?
Paul, he blinds a man in Acts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
see, Jesus told the apostles and the people he sent out to heal the blind, not to blind people.
Certainly.
And I think that Peter literally drops that Ananias and Sapphira. I think he drops them dead. I think he's on his own authority that right there. Because I've read that text and read it. And they were definitely afraid of him because I forgot how many soldiers they sent to arrest Peter. It was a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, because I looked it up. I was like, now what do they mean by a legion of men they sent to arrest him? So I went and looked up and I was like, they must have been really afraid of him. And there's another weird thing in there. I think it's in 12. When Herod passes away, you know, at the end of the chapter, out of the blue, we've got a sentence that says that, and Peter and Paul, having completed their mission, go here. And I'm like, they aren't mentioned anywhere else in there except that last sentence. What was their mission? I'm like, there's some stuff in there once you really start analyzing that just will really make you think. Oh, and they weren't burning books either. When I analyzed the Greek on that, It said they were co-authoring or writing books, and they were charging all that silver for the books they were writing. It says they were writing by firelight or candlelight.
More sense, to be honest.
I know.
Still doing it today.
I think all this is meant to come out now. I think we're at the very end.
Yep.
And I think Father's just revealing it. It's like he's letting it out.
I truly believe that. And you're either going to see it or you're not going to see it, I think.
I'm trying to remember how old I was when I had that dream from him. He showed me a bowl of soup, like alphabet soup. And it was like all these jumbled up foreign letters and stuff were in it. And he said, he asked what I was seeing. I said, it's all mixed up. I don't know. And he said, that's right. Fix it. And I thought, fix it? We're talking language. I don't know if I can do this or not, because I knew what he meant. Like immediately I knew what he meant. And I thought, I can't learn a foreign language. I'm 60. I think I was 60 or 61 at that point. And I started studying Hebrew. And once I got that kind of conquered, I set off into Greek. And I'm like, wow, there's so many messed up things in here. And I just got overwhelmed at one point, and I just kept praying to him. I said, help me through this, help me through it, because I don't know if I can do this or not. But it's like, all in all, he has helped me see so much. I mean, I'm not complaining at all.
He'll guide you, and at the pace you need to go at.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm still learning. I mean, I'm no scholar. I had taken 3 languages in school when I was in college. I took them in high school and college because I liked foreign language, but it's a whole nother thing to start tackling like Hebrew and Greek. I was like, this is wild. But if he wants you to do it, you can do it,
In my experience, I would say he actually started showing me this probably 10, 15 years ago. In some weird way, I wasn't ready for it yet, but it always stuck there and in the back of my head. And I even remember there was some videos I watched. I was like, I know this is important stuff, and I don't fully understand it right now. And I'm going to save these videos. And I literally did. I saved those videos from like probably 10 years back, and I've been able to go back and look at them now, of them speaking about the same stuff on Yahweh and whatnot. And yeah, now it makes total sense. So it was weird that he was even warming me up for this stuff before my brain was actually ready for it.
Oh, yeah.
And
There were
that's probably
years
part of that
before I
warming
got ready
process.
to know this stuff. There was a girl on YouTube, and I watched her video on how she was saying Yahweh was the devil and, all this stuff. And I tried to converse with her and argue some points with her and stuff. And I just couldn't get it. I'm like, how is she seeing this? But everything she said to me stuck in my brain later on when I started seeing it. And I was like, she told me about this.
Mhm.
And I tried to go back and talk to her, and I feel real bad because COVID hit, and she was living in New York in the slums. And after COVID, I could never find her. And I had a friend try to help me track her down too, and I could not find her. So I don't know what happened to her, but she really did have an impact on me as far as helping me see some of this stuff. And I wish I could thank her now. I don't know if you've seen her channel on YouTube. It's called Nine Narnia.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Those were literally the videos I was watching like 10 years back.
Oh, really?
I'm
Okay.
not even
That's
joking.
her.
I wasn't even going to throw the
That
name
is
out there.
her,
'Cause I'm
yeah.
like, nobody knows Nania because she doesn't make videos anymore, and she's buried in the algorithms.
Yep.
And I'm actually surprised like her videos are still up because it's been like that long. But yeah, man, if you tear through her stuff, she's got some really interesting stuff.
You learn a lot from her. She's very smart and very tied to Father, I could tell.
Do you get now how when I was watching those videos, granted I was younger too, that was a lot to take in. Like I had, to me it was like I need to go verify what you're saying. I need to go look myself because you're saying a lot of wild things in these videos sometimes. And I'm just like, I got to check this out for myself. But yeah, for some reason, I wasn't ready yet. Maybe that was the Roman Catholicism still sticking in me or something. But yeah, that's crazy. That was 9 Narnia. Holy cow.
Yeah, I went through the same thing. I can relate.
Wow.
I hope more
That blew
people
my
will
mind.
will study the Greek and the Hebrew and continue what I'm doing even long after I'm gone because it is so important for the believers right now to find it.
Yeah. Did you in
You know,
part learn that from her? Because she did a good amount of that.
she helped me understand that the some of the words were wrong in there.
Right.
You know,
Very
How
cool.
do you
Very cool.
spell that site, guys? How do you spell Narnia or whatever?
It's the number 9 and then Nania. I can double check it if that's not right. She should have like a flower looking thing.
Okay, I put it in the chat there.
yeah, Tracy put it in there, and there we go.
Yep, that's it. And that is correct. And yeah, she's got like a flower, multicolored rainbow flowered symbol thing as
Can
her
you
icon.
imagine if she was still around and her and I could talk and put what I found together
That's it.
with what she had?
Did you actually ever talk to her at all, like via email or whatever? Because I had tried to reach out to her too. I was like, I got to talk to you. I'm like, I need to understand this more, and I never got any kind of response.
I think she got really tired of all the arguments she got, and she got a lot of flack.
Yeah, she turned off all of her comments after a
hmm
while. Understandably.
I've been tempted to many a time. Just turn them all off.
Is her stuff still up on YouTube? Because I have not heard of her. Now I'm
Yeah.
interested in.
Yeah,
No,
she's still up there.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's still up there. And if you look, like her videos, like a majority of them go back about 8 to 9 years ago. She was still
Okay.
doing some videos maybe like 4, 5 years ago or so. And then she just kind of fell off after that. She does have a couple videos where she talks about some of her dreams and visions too, which are kind of interesting. And she also thought she was being like monitored or harassed.
Yeah.
What's that called?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, she does a couple of videos on that, and she had some very weird experiences with her and her
Gang
child.
stalking. Gang stalking is that?
Yes, that's it. Gang stalking. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
She'd be at the grocery store with her kid or something, and somebody would walk past her and repeat something that she said like in a private conversation with her sister on the phone like yesterday. And they
Yeah.
would just like keep walking. They just mess with somebody's mind or whatever. And she's got all
Right.
these stories. Really weird. Maybe somebody didn't like, that she was putting this out there. Because I'm telling you, there was at this time on YouTube, there was really nothing else like this on YouTube. No one was covering this like 10 years ago to the extent she was. Some people may have had the thoughts and maybe a verse or two here or there, but the amount of work she kind of put into a lot of this is pretty interesting.
Well, it's real interesting. Like, I have felt like somebody has hacked in my computer before,
Mm-hmm.
and I use a bunch of the translators just to double check stuff to see if they come up with anything different. And I kept putting this one thing in several of them. The last one I put it in, it says I don't give a damn about the sheep. That's what I got back.
Wow.
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of those. I
That has to
saved
be
them.
That has to be AI, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But
AI.
see, Yahweh is I have a feeling that he's morphed into that.
If I'm thinking Elon Musk's Neuralink could very well be part of the mark of the beast. Not that we'll all have necessarily a Neuralink in our head or whatever, but I don't trust that dude one bit, and I feel like it's going to be something like that, and I don't know. Be careful of that guy. I don't trust that guy.
We don't either.
I don't either. Are you on our Discord channel?
No, I am not.
If you'd like to join, we can get you hooked up with the thing.
Possibly. I don't do a whole lot of Discord.
What I did, I took it. I used to game when I was younger, and we used Discord when it first came out. And it has this nice filing system where you can have all these different files. So what I did was take my research and put my research in different files.
Oh,
And that way you can just sit and go through my research if you want to.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay, yeah. Maybe I'll check that out.
It's like a filing system. You have to join 2 different sites because I ran out of room. And I put the second half on another server, but it's all files is basically what it is. And then you can ask me a question if you find something you don't understand or you want to know more about. And
Cool.
we have the voice thing where we can get in, like, even off the lives and just chat, and talk about verses and stuff.
You got links to all of that on, like, some of your videos?
Aline, can you get him hooked up with that afterwards?
Yes, I can.
And
Yes, I can.
she has also compiled a PDF file of my research. And
Sweet.
you can get a copy of that too.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like Father wanted me to reach out and start reaching and really talking and individualizing, what's going on, so I'm trying.
I'm feeling a little inspired to maybe start some videos at some point. I don't have a whole lot of experience with all of that, so we'll see, but maybe.
It's not too bad. I just got a PowerPoint, and that's what I used to make it with. It's pretty easy to convert over to like a video form and then upload it. And then I just store them on external hard drives so they don't eat up all my computer,
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time to let me in and talk with me and answer some of my questions. You guys all seem like very
Anytime.
nice.
We try to be on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
Okay.
And I put out an announcement on YouTube, and sometimes on Sunday we'll come in early about 6 instead of later,
Okay. Yeah, I've caught a couple of your YouTube posts about what time you guys are going live.
We enjoyed having you and enjoyed the
Sure
questions
did.
and the interaction. So yeah, please come back and come up and talk to us anytime.
For sure. I think I'll do that.
Yeah. And check out that video I recommend. Jesus Christ versus Jesus Barabbas.
On the artist page.
On Scriptural, her YouTube channel is Scriptural Truth.
Okay.
And also, like, every time we go live, she'll post it the next day on YouTube in that Scriptural Truth channel too. So if you want to watch like the playback, I always do that because sometimes sitting in the panel you don't catch everything that's being said and everything in the chat, and so I always like to go back and watch it, and I can listen a little bit more intently.
Does it replay the chat also?
It does not, no, but it replays, like, the first part of her presentation. Like, I'll go back and rewatch just to hear it again. The more you hear it and the more you talk about it, it reinforces, the teaching, and it kind of just opens your eyes up and helps you understand it a little bit better.
Very cool.
Do we have anybody else that has any questions tonight? You can find me at Scriptural Truth. And if you go to my profile here on TikTok, I have a link to it in my bio.
Got it.
Well, guys, it's kind of quieting down. I think I'm going to call it for tonight. What do y'all think?
I just posted the link to your channel just for the, if whoever
Oh,
has,
thanks.
if it's still on, I posted the link in the comment section.
Sweet.
I
Well, yeah,
enjoyed this tonight. This was a good presentation of like really showing who Peter was in the video that you showed.
Yeah, this is very
Yeah, it
interesting
was.
material. I had never put this out either, so it's all new stuff.
Good stuff.
No, it was good.
Yeah. Well, you guys, I'm going to call it for tonight, and I hope everybody has a great evening.
Me
And
too.
everybody be praying for our little group that things calm down and we get some resolutions happening instead of problems.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
I love
Thank
you
you
all.
all. Good night,
Have a
everyone.
good
You
night,
too.
everyone.
Night, Jim
Night,
Bob.
everyone.
All right. Bye.
Bye.